So last time we started with basically the six questions that Yudhishthira had for Lord Bhishma. Now, the essence of Vishnu Sahasranam is essentially this interaction between Bhishma and Yudhishthira. To give a quick recap, Yudhishthira and the Pandava brothers had won this war with Kauravas. And in the process of winning this war, there were very big casualties. Like there were a lot of losses. His cousins who were very close to him were killed, and there were many collateral damages. There were many side effects, like a lot of animals, elephants, horses, and other people perished in this process. And going through this, Yudhishthira was feeling very restless. He felt that, was this war really worth it? What did I get out of it? Is this what the the purpose of winning and ruling is was right now? So with this kind of restless mind, like we all go through at some point of time, we need somebody to talk to and get clarifications, get some enlightenment, get some clarity on what exactly this is all about, what exactly is the purpose of this life. With this in his mind, Yudhishthira approached Lord Krishna because Krishna is he's extremely well versed with understanding the human nature and human philosophy. And the the idea was that if I speak to Lord Krishna, who's like my guru, I will get some enlightenments. I'll get some deeper understanding of what the real purpose of life is. So at that point of time, Krishna had already been through this lecture with Arjuna, his brother, and that was the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna said, you know, more than me, Lord Bhishma will be able to give you a better understanding of all your questions and restlessness that you're right now having. Having said that, what they did was they went, both of them, Yudhishthira and Krishna, approached Lord Bhishma. Now, Bhishma was in his final stages of his life. He was resting in a bed of arrows. At that point of time, he was about to give away his life. Now, the power that Bhishma had was that he could take his life, or he could end his life, or he could complete his life whenever he wished to. His objective in life was to protect the kingdom. And after the war was over, he was completely satisfied. He felt that, okay, the kingdom that I was supposed to be protecting, Hastinapur, is in a very safe hand. It's with people who follow Dharma very well, and they are the righteous people. They are the appropriate people to rule this kingdom. My duty, my role in this protection of this kingdom is done. So he's in this deathbed and he's deciding, okay, I'm almost done. So Yudhishthira approaches him and asks him these basic questions, which had been bothering him all the time. That's what it is. Just that inner, like, you have sometimes these questions that you're happy, you're satisfied, you've achieved everything, you've got everything, but still, a deep and inside you, you still don't know whether you have done the right thing, whether you are happy, and whether you have understood the meaning of whatever you have got at that point of time. So Yudhishthira starts out this question, and he asks six questions essentially. And the essence of Vishnu Sahasranam, like I said, was the answer to these six questions in a very elaborate way. Unlike most of the time, like, you ask six questions, you get six responses, and the responses are very direct and point to point. But it's in this case, Bhishma explains in a very elaborate way, and he encapsulates a lot of important philosophies in life. So the questions that Yudhishthira had, believe me, like, you should understand that Yudhishthira was not a very ordinary person either. He was like extremely dharmic, and he knew a lot of principles in life which were very important, which was in a righteous manner. But still, he himself had all these questions, which goes to show that like even very well versed, knowledgeable people whom we think are like who know everything in life still have restlessness, still have their own questions that bother them, worry them. So the questions that Yudhishthira had was, okay, first thing he had was Kimekam Daivatam Loke, Kimva Bekam Parayanam. Let me start with Kimekam Daivatam Loke. Kimekam Daivatam Loke, what he's asking is, Lord Bhishma, tell me who's the greatest Lord in this world? So here, he's just trying to be very practical here. We have Krishna, we have Vishnu, we have Ganapati, we have Hanuman, we have so many gods, but who do I really worship to, which will benefit me a lot? Then the next question he asks is, Kimva Pekam Parayanam. Now, like I said, Parayanam is a terminus, it's an end. I go through all these sufferings, life and death, and we all go through the cycles of life and death. At what point of time is this all going to end? How does it end? What is this? What is the terminus? And the third question was, Stuvantakam, means who should be praised? Who's the God that I can praise? And the fourth question was, Stuvantakam kam karchanat prapnuyur manava shubham. By whom? Worshipping whom? How do I worship? What kind of archana do I do? What kind of process that I go through when I worship this person? And primarily for me, it is that I want to attain moksha. I want to attain enlightenment. I want to attain a state where I'm always happy. Then the fifth question he asked was, Ko dharma sarva dharmana paramo mataha. What this says is that of all the dharmas, dharma, like I said last time, was in simple words, it's duty. It's your, it's what you offer to this world. And of all the dharmas that we have here, what is the most important dharma that I can perform, that I can do, which will help, me attain this again, enlightenment, moksha, whatever we call, faster or quicker? And what is the direct way to do it? Again, dharma means different to different things. Dharma for me would be in simple ways, taking care of my family. My duties are that right now. Dharma for a different person, for example, Bill Gates is not only taking care of his organization, but also more so getting into philanthropy and doing at that level, spending money for getting greater good in the world. So Yudhishthira had something similar. He asked, what is the dharma that I should follow or I should approach to get this greater good, and what is best of all that? The last question that he had was, Kim Japam Muchyate Jantur Janma Samsara Bandhanat. Janma Samsara Bandhanat is again, in Hindi philosophy, I told you that we always believe that there is a rebirth, there is a life, there is a death, and you're born again. Life, death, born again, and that's essentially ruled by your actions or what we call as karma. The process of going through this is something that we all try to break we all want to break, or we all want to get over it at some point of time. Okay, that's the goal for enlightenment. So he's asking, what japam? Japam is mantra, or any kind of sloka that you say. I'm pretty sure that throughout the satsang session, you go through sometimes discussing certain mantras, certain japams that will help you. All these mantras, japams, have some kind of power, which by repeating it or by saying it multiple times, it will purify your mind or make things easy for you, and it will at least remove your obstacles in life. So he's asking in similar terms, he's asking, which japa should I do? Now, these are all very deep questions for which Bhishma has answers, obviously. Bhishma at that point of time understands the restlessness, or understands what Yudhishthira is going to go through. He's able to empathize with Yudhishthira. That's exactly the property of a teacher or a guru. Bhishma doesn't answer his questions in that order that he asked. He didn't say, first question is this, okay, 1, the answer is this, 2, this is this. No, he doesn't go through that. So the order in which Bhishma answers is not necessarily the order in which the questions were asked. So I'm going to go through the first 6 or 7 verses, the way Bhishma answers, and it's in Sanskrit again. We'll get into interpreting it. We won't be able to interpret everything, but we'll try and interpret the first or 2 questions. Again, these interpretations, like I said again, these are strictly based on Shankara's commentary. Adi Shankaracharya's message has always been with an Advaitic philosophy in background. I think we all have a supreme being, or the the Paramatma inside all of us. So that's the crux of it, but it's a little bit more deeper to understand. It's something that you can say, but it's not easy to realize it. And the realization takes, again, a lot of practice. It takes some time. There needs to be a purity of mind to get that real understanding. So we are not going to really dwell deep into how to get that, but we'll just talk about this commentary which Adi Shankaracharya has presented, and we'll see how Bhishma responds. So Bhishma says to Yudhishthira, Jagat Prabham Deva Devam Anantam Purushottamam स्तुवन्नाम सहस्रेण पुरुष सततोत्थितः तमेव चार्चयन् नित्यं भक्त्या पुरुषव्ययम् ध्यायं स्तुवन्नमस्यंश्च यजमानस्तमेव च अनादिनिधनं विष्णुं सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं लोकाध्यक्षं स्तुवन् नित्यं सर्वदुःखादिगो भवेत् ब्रह्मण्यं सर्वधर्मज्ञं लोकानां कीर्तिवर्धनम लोकनाथम महद्भूतम सर्वभूत भवोद्भवम् एष मे सर्वधर्माणां धर्मो विकतमो मतः यद्भक्त्या पुंडरीकाक्षं स्तवैरच्चै नरः सदा परमं यो महत्तेजः परमं यो महत्तपः परमं यो महद्ब्रह्मा परमं यः परायणम् पवित्राणां पवित्रं यो मंगलानां च मंगलम् Daivatam Devatanam cha Bhutanayo Vyakpita. I've stopped here because he has answered all these 6 questions with whatever I said in Sanskrit. And then he elaborates more on these, he dwells deeper into it, and then that's essentially the entire Vishnu Sahasranam. To make things easy for us, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start with taking question 1 and what Yudhishthira answered. Like I said, what Bhishma answered. Bhishma, like I said, he didn't answer that order. But still, I'm going to try and maintain the order. So next time you read or you come across this, you can say, okay, this question that Yudhishthira asked, this is the answer, or this is what he was trying to say. Let's go with the first question. The first question was, Kimekam Daivatam Loke. Like I said, the Kimekam Daivatam Loke means, who's the greatest of all the lords? For this, Bhishma, now this is the last thing that he said. Pavitranam pavitram yor mangalanam cha mangalam daivatam devatanam cha bhutana yo vyakpita. Like I said, Bhishma didn't answer, he didn't say, okay, Lord Vishnu. He didn't just answer like that in one sentence. It was not his way of looking at it. He wanted to provide a deeper context into what Yudhishthira was asking and trying to understand him and expand it and elaborate and put in a very elaborated way. So, Pavitranam Pavitram Yor. Okay. Pavitranam Pavitram Yor is Pavitram. What is Pavitra? Pavitra means purity, cleanliness. So, Pavitranam Pavitram Yor means what purifies, whatever purifies. For example, let's say you have a dirty cloth, you wash it. What water has this ability to purify? It removes all the dirt. Or you put some detergent, that detergent takes all the dirt away and the cloth becomes clean. In this context, what he's saying is what provides that purifier its ability. What gives the purifier the ability to purify? Who gives that ability for a purifier to purify? Okay, that's what Pavitranam Pavitram Yor. Mangalanam cha mangalam. That means mangalam is like mangalam is in South we use this word mangala very often. Mangala means it's auspicious. What provides peace? What provides good thoughts, clean thoughts? So here again, Bhishma is saying, the person who provides this thought, what makes him? Who is that person who drives that thought into him? Or who provides a mangalam to the person who gives mangala? So it's more of a reference. Okay? It's not really the next sentence, for example, is Devatanam cha Devatam. That means of all the gods, see who gives the godly aspect, godly nature. What gives the godly behavior to gods? We worship different gods according to the way we have been raised. For example, some people worship Lord Shiva, some people worship Hanuman, some people worship goddess Durga, or some people worship Sri Vidya. So there are many people who worship different goddesses. He's saying the person who is responsible for giving the godly nature is what we are talking about. The last thing he says is, Bhutanam yo yah pita. Bhuta means like, organisms, like any animals, humans, plants, everything that is there. The person who is a protector, who provides life, who keeps it fresh. And the word pita means a protector. So पवित्राणां च पवित्राणां पवित्रं यो मंगलानां च मंगलम दैवतानां च देवतम भूतानां च यः पिता. So that's what is the response for the first question was Kimekam Daivatam Loke. Now, to get a little bit more into this Pavitranam Pavitram yo, right? So the thing obviously in this case, Bhishma didn't talk about like, cleaning up as in like, cleaning some utensil or cleaning a vessel or cleaning. He was talking about cleanliness in terms of cleaning our own self or purifying your own self internally. Now, again, in Hindu philosophy, we believe that there is punyam and papam. Punyam is like in your good things that you have done in your previous life, and papam is like whatever bad things you have done. Like these are like these are cause and effects. So what we say is like that this life that you have is based on reflection of all your karma from the previous life that you've done, and whatever suffering and whatever pleasure you go through is based on this punya and papam that you've done. Now, pavitram, purifying, that means what? How do I purify myself? How do I, especially for the papam, if I have like, if there's something that is not coming across very well, I'm going through some sufferings. If you pray to, or if you do the japa, you do the mantra to this Ishvara or this Lord or the Supreme Power, he has that ability or she has that ability to lower the intensity of your sufferings or to reduce or sometimes even eliminate your sufferings. So, Mangalanam cha Mangalam is good thoughts. How do I get good thoughts, clean thoughts? Worry. How do I keep worry free? Again, Bhishma says, at later point of view, you'll see, literally say that. Let's like, if you want to get out of this cycle of sufferings, you want to get out of this thoughts, which are more derived by desire. So there's a question that you keep asking is, what is really causing the suffering? What really is the essence of suffering? Sometimes the answer seems to be pointed to our desires, our own attachments to objects or things that we like. And how does it happen? Again, it seems to be happening because of your previous life's karma. And how do I get out of this? When you have these desires sometimes like has these, by itself is not bad, right? But the problem with desire is you have more of that. If the object that you desire is taken away from you, it leads to anger, it leads to fear, it leads to all those things. Bhishma says that surrender yourself to God, the person who can purify everybody's purity, who provides the ability to purify, who provides the ability to give the clean thoughts, your ability to keep you worry free by just like surrendering yourself to Lord or the Supreme Being that you should believe in. So by he's saying talking about like doing mantras, regular japams. By doing that regularly, your mind gets purified. Good thoughts come to you, and it's also there's a lot of protection coming from the Supreme Being itself. I was looking at the story that I came across about Gajendra Moksha. Gajendra was an elephant. There were two contexts here. In his previous life, Gajendra was a king. He used to be known as a king Indradhuma, and he was a very strong devotee of Lord Vishnu. But one day, what happened was, like in a sage Agastya approached him. He was in his own thought, and he didn't acknowledge and he didn't welcome sage Agastya. Now, like I said, like last time we spoke about sage Durva with his 1,000 followers and things like that. Again, sages are very powerful people. They have done a lot of good things. They give good thoughts and give like good advices. They provide good inputs. But at the same time, they are also very short-tempered. And sage Agastya was known for his short temper. So immediately, when sage Agastya felt that he was not being welcomed, he cursed. He said, "You know what? Your mighty ego will be crushed. Your next life, you'll be born as an elephant." Along the same term, there was another person by name King Hulu, and he was from this kingdom called Gandharva. He and another sage, the sage name was Devala. They were talking close to each other. They were nice friends, and they were taking bath in a river, and they were praying together. Sage Devala was praying, but this King Uhulu, he I don't know what happened. And suddenly he went under the water and he started pulling Sage Deva's legs. So, which really irritated Sage Devala. He was very upset and he cursed King Hulu. See, sometimes human minds, we just do something without understanding the consequences. So, when he got cursed, he said, like, you're trying to pull my legs, you know what? You'll be a crocodile in your next life. At that point of time, King Hulu pleaded, saying, please, 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 I didn't mean to do that. I was just having fun. So, he said, no, now I see, I'm sorry, I've given a curse. I cannot take it back. But what I can do is, if you if you're if you go through this life, I'll make sure that towards the end of your thing, your life will be taken away by Lord Vishnu, and he will give you salvation. So these are the two settings of what happened here. Now, as you know, King Indradhyuma was cursed by sage Agastya, and King Hulu was cursed by sage Devala, and King Indradhyuma turned into an elephant. He was called Gajendra. Gajendra was an elephant. He had other elephants with him, and they were all walking around the forest. And they entered a pond. Again, they felt very thirsty. They were having water, and they were playing with each other. They were sprinkling water all over each other. They were causing a lot of disturbance. In this pond, King Hulu was also cursed. He would turn into a crocodile. His name was Makara. So Crocodile Makara was disturbed by it. He was like, he was unhappy about it. So he, while the elephant Gajendra was alone and he was taking bath, and other elephants had walked away, he grabbed Gajendra's legs. You know how crocodiles are, right? They have very powerful jaw. So once the crocodile sunk his tooth into Gajendra's legs, it was very difficult for the elephant to release himself. So the context here is that the grabbing of the legs and the suffering that the elephant Gajendra is going through is very similar to the sufferings that we have. And the more he tried to release his legs, the more the crocodile sunk his tooth into it, and he was not able to get himself out. And that again equates to the more we are sunk into these desires, pleasures, the more the suffering comes up, the more painful it is. So the elephant Gajendra asked help from his other elephant friends. Couldn't. The elephants try to help him, they try to pull him out, but they couldn't because this crocodile had innate power and it was very strong and it didn't allow it. Other elephants walked away. So he was trapped and he couldn't get out of it, this situation. It was very painful suffering. So at that point of time, the elephant Gajendra, since he was in this previous life, there was this king who was also a devotee of Vishnu. Gajendra started praying to Lord Vishnu, saying, Lord Vishnu, I don't have anybody now. I don't have anybody else who can protect me. You are the only person who can protect me. So Lord Vishnu, when he heard Gajendra pleading for help, and that's the nature of Lord, like in God, you just surrender yourself to God with complete trust. And you do your best, obviously. You come through problems, you have issues in life, you have sufferings in life. God will help you out. He will listen to you. That's the story here. So Vishnu, when he saw that Gajendra was going through this pain, he was looking for Garuda. He couldn't find Garuda. He was saying, forget Garuda. I'm just going and I'm going to help him. So he started running towards the elephant Gajendra. When Garuda saw that, oh my God, my master, he's going in such a desperation to help. So Garuda immediately approached Lord Vishnu and they both came together and they came towards the situation where Gajendra was being held by this crocodile. And Lord Vishnu, then later on, what he does was he has the Sudarshan Chakra and he decapitates the crocodile. And the end of it is obviously, both of them are blessed. Makara is decapitated, he dies and he gets a salvation. And elephant Gajendra is also blessed by Lord Vishnu by the praises that he received. So the thing is that this story kind of highlights the fact that we all have these sufferings that we get into by these desires, these wants, these things that sometimes will kind of drive you more and more into these suffering situations. The only solution for that is surrendering yourself to God, by doing your regular duties, by doing your regular mantrams or japams, or being involved constantly with the thought of God's nama, smaranam of God's nama. So I think I'm going to take a break here because I've not really covered much, but I've started with the first question, and I think I've covered a little bit of the first question and answer. All right, so the next question is basically, Kimva Pekam Parayanam. Parayanam, like I said, is the terminus. Where do I give up myself? What happens after I go through all these, where do I finally end up? For this, Bhishma answers, Paramam yo mahattapa tejah, paramam yo mahattapah, paramam yo mahad brahma, paramamya parayanam. So we'll expand on this second question next week, okay?